Well, I think these are important questions because you think about it, right? Technology at some point, it was constantly humans are constantly looking for the path of least resistance. We constantly try to find easier ways of doing things, faster ways, more productive ways of doing things. But a lot of this was of the purpose of having more free time, right? Like if you made a weapon, once you learn how to make a bow and arrow, you didn't have to spend so much time hunting and gathering. Once you learn maybe alternative ways of heating yourself, maybe you didn't have to spend all day, gathering wood or whatnot. So technology was always supposed to give us more free time, more time to enjoy life, experience life, be with your friends and family, leisure, time to think. And, and you see it throughout our primitive ancestors as they had more free time to think and ponder. That's when philosophy sparked and all these other things, because you had time to really ponder on things. And it's like if we kept going in that direction, and if technology was always good, then we should be at the point now where we should have tons of free time, and we should just barely be, doing anything we don't need to, that we don't like to do, because we have robots and technology to do those things for us. I mean, I think when I was talking to Douglas Ruskoff, who's a author, and he's been on my show a bunch of times, he was saying how in the near future we would have enough robots and technology where people could like work a month out of the year, and we had enough robots to take care of everything else, or or like what Christopher,
or 12 minutes a week. Like, hey, I got to go into work to like hit the factory button for 12 minutes, for every Tuesday, and so then that's not a work.
That technology is not, there is something else going on, because we're being used, and where technology isn't being I guess developed to make our lives better and easier, and it's actually a weapon against us in many cases. And you're seeing
being used to enslave us.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So Christopher Ryan, who actually hopefully will be on one of these in the near future. I'm a huge fan of his, and he's been on my show in the past, and he has this new book called Civilized to Death. And it really kind of sparks this conversation of like, okay, what's progress, right? This is one of the things I talk to him about. And I'm a huge fan of like this idea. Like we keep thinking like, oh, we're evolving. We have better material things. We have more of this, more of that, but yet we're more unhappy. We're self-medicating with more pills and alcohol, and less time with our friends and family. We're doing things that are less fulfilling. So it's like, well, we have to ask, what the fuck is progress, right? Maybe we should take a step back. And I think that's why you look at the Grimerica guys, they talk about this, they're spending more time in nature, spending more time, just doing things that are more peaceful. And I think people are going that way because we're seeing how much it's necessary. Like the further we get away from those things that actually make us happy, the things that are actually important, the more we realize like, holy shit, like those things are actually what made me happy. All this super stimulating social media and I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I struggle to watch a documentary these days, which I did a lot of my research and learning from documentaries back in the day, because 2 seconds in, I'm like, let me look at my phone.
Yeah.
It's and I don't want to admit that I do that because I want to,
You're not the only one, Ricky.
So it's just, so we have to think like, and I remember Dr. Christopher Ryan saying this. He's like, when you look at the winners, right? So if the winners are, in our economy or in our civilization, our society, we've decided that a lot of times when we look at winners in this world, we think financial gain, right? So, but if those guys who have the most financial wealth and material things, we look at them like, oh my God, they're succeeding, they're the winners. If they're the most depressed, unhappy, miserable fucking people with kids who are on drugs or, suicidal because, their parents are too busy, I guess, pursuing a career instead of parenting, focus on some job that gives them material wealth instead of the most important job, which is nurturing your kids and being a parent. Then if they're unhappy, then who the fuck's the winners? Like this whole game is ridiculous, and we have to rethink this whole thing. So these bigger questions like Zach is bringing up, I think is super important. Anybody want to add to, whatever the hell.
It just reminds me of my days on the trading floor at Goldman Sachs. I worked for Mike Matera, and the guy died of brain aneurysm. I mean, he had his own helicopter. He would fly in from Stamford, Connecticut. He was so powerful, and he was so miserable, the poor man. And, even there's so many people that I see that are coming in at younger and younger ages, and they have anxiety.
Right.
And they have, like, from families that have such financial wealth, and they're so poor inside. And, you know, like, and then I see even in my own neighborhood when parents are walking their 2-year-old and the mom is flipping through her phone, I'm like, put the phone down and be with your kid. They're not going to be two forever. But like getting out in nature, we take a walk every night with my sons and we just go without our phones because, you know what, that's the way it used to be. But
Sadly, I get that. I actually worked at sadly enough, during, I worked at Chelsea lately, and then we, spawned off Kardashians, and I saw it happening. I mean, the whole, focus on the money, focus on the wealth, focus on everything that doesn't matter, berate anyone who's, struggling. I watched it at I watched seriously people that were promoting the worst of the worst in life. And I by the time I left there, I felt so, every day I would watch the whole day because it's on every corner, it's constantly on when you work there. And you're just thinking, what are they doing? What are they doing? And I left there in 2011, and it's only gotten worse. Like these Real Housewives, somebody was saying, what is the what's progressive? Well, I heard today that a rapper on the front of Vogue that sings about, just disgusting stuff with, the worst case scenario in life is progress, and I'm thinking, oh my God, that's what they've been selling, is that everything that doesn't matter, everything that doesn't is glamorous, everything, it's an upside down dynamic. And I look back at like all the years that I worked out there and I think, oh my God, I thought, as I saw it happening, the whole, first like the Kardashians, then the spin-offs. But then I also go back to when I was in college and, all the gangster rap and all of that. And I look back and I think, like, of course we're here. I mean, if they didn't get them in Common Core or, when they changed all the education, and they were getting us in pop culture. And, it's not a surprise that now, people shoot people for, a pair of sneakers. And people think that, having money, and because we've been told that, and everything that they've glorified in the culture that is, taken over, I believe, on purpose, is everything that doesn't matter. And, now we're seeing these people, like you see Joe Biden, he's being interviewed by Cardi B, and then he's being interviewed by a kid that's arrested from Netflix for being a pedophile. And, and it's like, it's just embarrassing at this point. Like, I like my family, I'm like at a point where I haven't even turned on the TV in weeks. I can't. It's just, it's so disturbing. And I feel like we played a part, but I wasn't really paying attention. I was just doing my job. But that's
what's the key there is Mel, is self-awareness. Do we teach that? Do we teach self-awareness to be able to come to that realization?
No, but their issue is they're scared of self-awareness. The issue is, if you are self-aware and you look inside and you take personal responsibility, then you're never going to follow their path. These people that are marching, and they're the brown shirts of the old days of every revolution where it was basically Marxist, is there's no God. The God is the movement, and the movement is about getting away from God, family, religion, everything. And they don't lie about it. I mean, the UN is actually, at the end of the day, it's run by the Lucis Trust. It's a real story. It's not a joke. And people have to start realizing that entertainment has been telling us for way too long that, everything that is important has to do with buying cars and shoes and phones. And that's why these, they raised a generation of warriors that care nothing about humanity and life and family. And I think there's a big turn going on, but I do look back at my years at E and I think, oh my God, I was a part of this. I really was. I mean, you know, I wasn't paying attention because I was working 16 hours a day. But now looking at it, I'm very embarrassed that I ever had anything to do with promoting a culture that has that's basically a bunch of sociopaths. You know, I want mine, and I'm going to get it no matter what. And then I'm going to drive around in my car, and I'm going to look like I have money. And then that somehow equals happiness. And it's the opposite.
Well, I think the movie that said it the best was actually A Bug's Life, when you know, the big bug said, you know, it's not about the food, it's about control. We need to keep these ants in line because we're the ants that are in line. And when you take a look at, you know, hey, how come we're not working 12 hours a month or a week? Or it's because, you know, we're, you know, viewed as useless eaters. And you get guys like Zbigniew Brzezinski who said something to you know, it used to be far easier to control 1 million people than to kill 1 million people. And today it's infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than it is to control 1 million people. And so they're telling, I mean, and the government can't even get their bioweapons straight because they, you know, release the, you know, the COVID-19 that only kills, you know, like 0.00 whatever % of people. And so, you know, the game plan is to get rid of a lot of people. And that's why they're not telling people, you know, what you should do to get on the offense and what you should do to boost your immune system. And they're just now telling you that vitamin D is something that, you know, that could be good to you know, to implement into your system. But yeah, it's all about, you know, getting control because, you know, like the Georgia Guidestones and everything. I mean, they want to get us down to, I mean, even Bill Gates, you know, in that TED talk from a few years ago said, if we do a really good job on the vaccines, the healthcare system and the food, then we can, I forgot what the exact quote was, but we can reduce, you know, the population by X
15%.
number of percent. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but, and then at the same time, I'm in the middle Manhattan, and I'm around the corner from where I believe is like the hub of this, which is the UN. And I have to say, everything that they're saying, like about this Agenda 2030, and you know, then it's like, oh, how could you? It's all in flowery language, but at the end of the day, why is some man who thinks that the population is 15% too many humans on the planet, the one giving out vaccines? You know, there's a real cognitive dissonance in believing that Bill Gates is trying to save people. And, you know, I'm a big fan of ending the UN and also all of their subsidiaries, because if you look back and you do the research, their whole goal was no different than their goal when they started World War II. It's the same players. And it's their, you know, their offspring and their bloodlines. And, you know, people say, it's impossible. Well, no, it's not. And you know, we're at a point where we've been fed a total like diet of self-destruction for now almost 20 years. And we're seeing the kid, like, look at everyone that's arrested. Like, look at us, okay? There's everyone on the screen. And then look at the arrest photos of all the people from Antifa. There's a real difference. Something happened. Like, something is going on. They are more like soldiers of a cause.
They're gone. They're pod people. They're vacated.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of talk about, you know, something like, you know, Agenda 2020 and Agenda 2030. But, you know, one of the real things is, you know, I think it's Project 2045. It's 2045.com, where essentially the elite think that by 2045, we're going to create these avatars of ourselves where we're just going to be sitting in some, you know, liquid solution, and there's going to be an avatar that lives forever. But the thing is, that's not going to be available to everybody. And so you need to kill off the people that can't afford it and just keep enough people around to kind of maintain the basic systems. But it's all about all the trans rights are all about transhumanism, not, you know, some, you know, guy, you know, trying to set a record for, you know, girls, you know, swimming or running or something. But
hey, Truthzilla, you guys want to jump in? And then also let's hear from Tim James before.
Yeah, Tim, go for it, dude.
Wow, there's a lot to talk about here. You know, one thing that you guys were talking about earlier was money. You know, and money being the theme was kind of the root of all evil. I went through that. I was like focused on money. I went through a detox physically, and that opened up the spiritual channels to me. And then I didn't want money at all. I just wanted to live in a desert. And then I watched my resources go down. And then it's like, it is a valid form of abundance. So I just want the people listening to understand that money is not evil. It's who's handling it. Okay. It is a valid form of abundance in this time period in our human history. But it's only one form of abundance. And when we make money the only form of abundance, we're actually locking and closing all of the other doors in which abundance can come to you, be it money or somebody gifting you something or somebody synchronistically coming into your life at the right place at the right time to make your life work. You know, you have your career and you have spirituality and you have relationships and you have your health. These are all other forms of abundance. And so I just wanted to get that clear, because if you're, I just don't want people to think that like, well, money's a bad thing. It's just who's behind it. So I wanted to comment on that.
That's,
For sure,
that's
man.
definite. And you know what? Sometimes you don't, if you're really smart with your money, and I don't think anyone teachers, they should teach this to the kids and even the parents for that matter. If you're really smart with your money, you'll know how to live very comfortably. You just have to know how to save and spend and invest properly. But no one ever teaches. You could graduate with a finance degree and not know what the H you're doing with your finances. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully with this whole thing with COVID, it's just a big wake up call for people to get off their ass and learn how to boost their immune system. Because COVID-19 is probably not going to be the last one to be released. I'm sure COVID 20 and 21 and 23 is already done. So it's probably going to get worse as far as the stuff they're going to throw at you. So the question is how strong is your immune system, and what are you going to do about it right now to boost that immune system? And it's all about getting back to nature, guys. That's what it's always been about. Like the more we're disconnected from nature, the ecosystem, your immune system is not going to work as well. When you remove your body from the contact of the earth, you're losing that life force, that connective energy of grounding. There's movies on it, the movie Grounded and the Earthing movie. People should check that out. You'll be blown away. It's just as important as air and water, and nobody's talking about this kind of stuff. You need to be grounded. I'm grounded right now. I'm touching a grounding wire that goes out. I sleep on things that ground me. It reduces inflammation in the body and boosts the immune system.
Absolutely. I mean, I could say since coming back, I spent 6 months in the jungle, and I feel like I kind of like stored some juju to be able to come back into the city. But I mean, that's what my messaging was for the past. We are disconnected from nature, and to wake up and like was not missing any food, had organic food, have fresh water, grounding every single day, seeing insects of
bacteria, they call them probiotics. They sell them in bottles, but that are naturally inherent in the soil and your human gut biome, which is one of parts of the immune system. It's the gut biome, not just the innate and the adaptive part of the immune system, which is what Fauci's model is, that 100-year-old system. It also talks about the gut bacteria, the brain, and the interferon system that says that our body desires and wants viruses and bacteria so that it can create antibodies for a lifetime and make us 1,000 times stronger every time we come into contact.
We have more bacteria than human cells. And that's where it's at. And we have a virome, Fauci.
But at the same time, I was just going to say, here on the West Coast, I mean, they've burned up half of our coast here. So the nature is getting destroyed. And I kind of feel like that's the agenda, is to move us all into these smart cities like we've been talking. I mean,
human settlement zones.
Yeah, human settlement zones. I think I would love to be in nature, but there's not much to go see right now.
Where are you?
Just we're in Oregon. Yep.
Oh boy.
Just on the vaccine thing though that you brought up there too, I just wanted to touch base that we should be waking up and taking care of our bodies. But I just had a conversation with someone yesterday that they just went and got their flu shots, and they've just been doubling down on this flu shots because of COVID. People are buying right into this.
But I just pointed out it makes you 36 times more vulnerable for it.
That's exactly what I said to them. To be fair, it was my parents. I just said, I said, what are you guys doing? I mean, I said the 36%. I sent them a link to an article that showed it, but to them, when they're only getting the other side of this thing. We're kind of a small group. In some ways, I feel like I just listened to Dean's podcast and I got a little bit depressed, like thinking, we're kind of talking to ourselves. And, I worry that, their side there's so many people that are buying into this agenda that,
I think the opposite's actually happening. Yeah. I just read an article today that 1 in 3 parents are not giving their kids the flu vaccine.
Even Fauci said it the other day that we're losing, as he was telling, in a cartoon to kids that he's going to get vaccinated, that we are the silenced majority. And at one point, I mean, I feel that a large part of us are trying every single day. And like Amazing Polly said, if you're not aligned, go back to the soil. I mean, we're trying. And if people actually are, and hopefully these global elitists and the vaccine deep state will be happy with the thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Like maybe it'll be a sacrificial lamb, all these people that are going to go to get injected.
I'm glad you brought that up. I've been struggling with that myself too, is I feel helpless, even though we have somewhat of a voice. And I know a lot of people might be just walking around in masks where it's not even mandated in our little town, maybe because of the pressure, and maybe they don't buy into it all, but it sure feels like people are buying into it. And when you hear of loved ones like your parents or my sister's friends or somebody that they're just so stuck in that paradigm. It's really depressing. I feel like I see these young people walking around outdoors with masks on when it's not even. So there's no excuse in this little town, and I feel like crying for these people. I mean, it's just. So I don't know how to. I was going to ask you guys, and I don't want to switch topics here too much, but how to handle that helpless feeling of just having a bit of a voice, but not knowing how to. I mean, I don't know. We always talk about waking people up or whatever, or just how to deal with it myself, like in my, for my personal things. I try and look at it as almost like a game, or look at the positives. Like you guys are usually pretty positive. There's a lot of people waking up too, but it's hard not to just think that, oh my God, there's all these people that are just, you can tell them the stuff. They'll even listen to you, but they don't want to change their mind. They're already decided that they're not going to change their mind. It doesn't matter what you say or what facts you give them. They're not going to change their mind.
Well, everybody, Sorry,
I was just going to say, it's just like James Corbett says, it's like you can't wake somebody up who's pretending to be asleep, man.
But, hold on, James Corbett's last video was welcoming new people into this.
Yes.
So I watched the whole thing, and I'm no newbie. I watched all 40 minutes. I think number 4, he was talking about if you've actually gotten it this far, you have that rare whatever. But, I have 4 monitors in front of me right now. I'm usually doing busy work or thumbnails for my videos, and those things are easy to be in the background. I'll say this. I'm fucking pissed. I go to bed mad. I fucking wake up mad. I barely sleep. This fucking week has been tough on me. This whole 6 months, I knew it was going to be. You go back to my videos in March and saying nobody's really prepared for what this is going to be. And I've been rattling shit off that nobody wants to listen to for 15 years. And for 15 plus years, the same lies come back at me again and again and again and again. And all I can say is, you can reach some of the people some of the time, and you got to find those like-minded individuals like this. I love this union of the Adwanted. I think it's great. It's a great thing. I think Ricky did a great thing by bringing us all together, bringing new people all the time. But one of the reasons I'm going to Iowa is because I think I got a better shot there of building a community that's going to say no to a mandatory vaccine. I already know New York is doomed. I was already at the protests in front of the Capitol in Cuomo. The Times Union in Albany barely covered it. Forget about the fucking national media, guys. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, to go back to Zach with this fact checking on Facebook in particular. I recently had Esquire write a hit piece on loose change. They put it out there. And they parroted the same talking point about Shanksville, Pennsylvania, right? And that's Popular Mechanics, James Meggs. It's a 1.5 mile debris field. It's not 8 miles. So I had the opportunity to have the guy on. And they parroted it. And I said, look, I posted the article. There's no fact check, man. It's an 8 mile debris field. And then I showed him the crash site in New Baltimore. I showed him the reports of it happening in New Baltimore. I showed him the woman outside of a church that had the debris on her table. And I go, this is the one thing about 9/11 you put in here. It's obviously fucking wrong. Hearst Publication says it's all right. They said it was all right 15 years ago. Popular Mechanics said it's all right. Esquire says it's all right today. And Facebook says it's all right today. So, you got to point these hypocrisies out to those that will actually listen, because overall, they're not accountable. I mean, what do we do, Zach? Is it lawsuits? Is it common sense? Because how many times have they promoted people that have promoted lies like weapons of mass destruction, gas attacks in Douma in Syria? It goes on and on and on. Are lawsuits the only answer?
Well, why are they lying so much? Why are they doubling down? Why is the news getting so fake? And part of the reason why it's getting that is because people are getting more resistant to it. In the same way that a diabetic is prescribed insulin to overcome the resistance to insulin, the doctor is prescribing more propaganda and fake news to combat the fact that people are becoming resistant to propaganda. Yeah. And so, how far can they go? And at this point, it seems that it's got an expiration date because the people can only take so much before they say, okay, well, everything's fake and they're going to distrust everything in the news. And we're basically having the breakdown of society because people no longer believe in this, in the institutions, in the government, in all this, and they don't like the censorship. And so, what is the core of it that we need to change? Well, the judicial stuff, the political stuff, those things are all good, but really those are all downstream from culture. And what I've been trying to do is that regardless, politics can fail and so can justice. It happens all the time. But what I knew that I could win was to alter the narrative and the culture itself, and therefore hoping that would be the generative force to change everything downstream. And so essentially the answer is we need to change the culture. We do it by doing what we're doing right now, which is to talk about all these things that are coming down the pipeline, because the legacy fake news media isn't going to do it for us.
I think as far as what we can do also, I'm thinking to go door to door before we're locked in, or like when I'm in San Francisco and I'm boggled. You're outside. Why are you wearing a fucking face diaper? You're outside. So I don't know. I don't know. I think there's people that will open up, or you secretly you're like, this is like exaggerated, right? And then they're just, they're doing it for the other person, or they're doing it because they don't want to be shamed, or because they don't want to lose your job. And I do think there's few that are willing to be dissidents, that are willing to get arrested, rather than toe the line. So it is maddening and it's depressing. But I do think, like Zach said, there's a reason why they're amping up their propaganda. It's because they're realizing that people are waking up. And I think more than, as far as the vaccine issue, more than ever, maybe because also Orange Man has plugged it, that people are like, oh, it must be bad. So, in the end, everyone has free will, whether they realize it or not, right?
And why are they allowed to say Orange Man? I'm from Syracuse, New York, and they had to change the team name from the Orange Man to the Orange because Orange Man was, racist to Native Americans. So, I'm wondering why are they now allowed to use that? And then Jason just brought up the debunking 9/11 myths, and I couldn't remember. I knew like one of the guys who authored it was something Benjamin Chertoff. Is there any relation between him and Michael Chertoff? Because now, if you DuckDuckGo it, they've actually removed the name Chertoff from the authors. I'm just seeing this right now in live time that you could find it on the site, but on the sidebar it took off Chertoff's name.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Benjamin Chertoff, who actually led the initial investigation before they wrote a book on it, and they put it out there. And this is when, this is pre-Loose Change. I remember going to get the Popular Mechanics article, thinking maybe some truth was going to be said. He was cousins with Michael Chertoff, who's the dual Israeli citizen, the first head of Homeland Security. And when they were asked about it, it was hush-hush. Someone called Benjamin's mother and got her on the phone. She's like, oh, yeah, they're cousins. Of course they know each other.
Was he on the board of all the body scanner, one of the body scanner
yes.
Well?
Listen, he, of course he was. Post-Homeland Security, he was one of the biggest proponents of those body scanners. And I remember...
And right now, isn't he doing the Atlantic Council? I mean, the Transition Integrity Project and all these like preemptive planning for if Trump wins, what they're going to do. Isn't he doing these treasonous war games right now? That guy, they don't hide it. They don't care. They don't, it's all the same people. It's always all the same people. And, you know, we were talking about both the medical industrial complex, the military industrial complex. They're all the same people. And then they all connect to the World Economic Forum and the IMF and then the Davos. And I mean, like, Jason's broken it a million times, but this Chertoff guy right now is planning a coup against Trump when he wins openly. This integrity transition project is really just, you know, letting everyone know that Trump will not win no matter what, and we the people have no say. That's what it looks like to me.
Charlie,
Can you speak about that, Zach? Because you looked at the integrity project a lot. Sorry.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, that transition integrity project is absolutely nuts. Are you all familiar with this?
Yes. At least most of us, right? We all know, like the Podesta wargaming as Biden, right? That's what we're talking about here.
So, like,
Yeah,
page 17.
simulations.
Yeah.
Page 17 is the simulation part where they say that there's a clear Trump win, but Biden wins the national vote, right? Which
Civil War.
Yeah, well, they don't give up. They're like, they don't concede because Biden won the popular vote, but didn't win the electoral college. So they keep on pushing it. And that's what they actually talk about, is how they keep on pushing it and how they're not really bound by legal maneuvers, that this is more of a political fight. So all options are on the table, and that Biden is able to convince California to break away from the United States. And then they use that as a negotiating position to force Trump to agree to abolish the electoral college, break up California into 5 different states, thereby increasing the senatorial representation in the Senate from 2 to 10, make Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. also a state. That will give another 4 senators to the Senate. And so they basically destroy the electoral college in order to have Biden concede.
And the problem is that we, the people, don't figure into their war games. We, the people, don't matter. They're non-government organizations and think tanks, and they're all working with the elite, the Davos crew, all these same people. But we, the people of the United States, do not figure into their game.
Oh, no. I mean, not even the law figures into the game. They're saying that this is a fully political, not necessarily something that's constrained by law or precedent. So, you know, this is what's coming. And I would have said, oh, that's ridiculous. But then this follows the same model that we saw in Event 201, that was the war games in October of 2019, where they were talking about the whole COVID-19 outbreak. And people were like, what the heck is going on with this? I dismissed it. I thought it was funny. Then it turns out that, yeah, there's this huge outbreak that just happened. So I'm now inclined to believe that it's going to be probably the worst catastrophe of any electoral system that we've ever had. And I've seen other documents to suggest that this is by design, that what they want to do is they want to demoralize us so that we hate the electoral system and that we want to destroy it because it's unable to function properly.
So I have a question. So if we're under the belief that it's all political theater and in reality there is no choice other than, unless you want to just bring in full-on communism, then how does this integrity project factor in if it's all BS anyway?
I mean, I don't know whether it's, I mean, there's 2 possibilities. One is that it's BS, you know, and it's just a bunch of idiot people that are thinking that they can just go ahead and do this out in the open. I mean, it's the left is really that brainwashed. It's amazing how brainwashed they are, that they'll do openly seditious and treasonous things and not even conceive that it's wrong or against the Constitution. They believe that they're on the right side of history. Could just be that. Or, you know, like I said, if the oligarchs truly control both sides, then this could be an effective document that acts as a predictive programming mechanism to tell the population, hey, this is what's coming and this is how it's going to unfold, and be very fearful and, you know, cause as much disorder and conflict. Because I know that families right now, family, friends, everywhere across America is just is just bifurcated. You're either susceptible to this mind control propaganda or you're not. And it's not about liberalism. It's not about conservatism. It's just, are you susceptible to weaponized military propaganda, or do you see that's what's going on? And so at this point, people on the left just they can't wait for Trump to get out. They think that it's inevitable, that we all think that he's a distasteful individual who's about to be kicked out of office. And then there's like the people on the right that are like, you know, Trump's about to get a real mandate as he's going to sweep across most of the states of America. And we're both telling each other mirror images of the same story. And what I was hoping is that there would be a clear win of, you know, Trump winning. But honestly, if Biden wins, he could undo all of the sealed indictments, all the things that we've been telling ourselves on the right that's going to happen to clean up the whole cabal. Like, that could just be completely halted and reversed. And it will have half of America thinking that that's the best thing ever that's about to happen. Or we can just get the total annihilation of our belief that an election can work, as the whole thing is torn down, because that's what the oligarchs want, because they actually want us to go back to some sort of feudal-like system, right, where the royal bloodliners control everything and we're just essentially subjects contributing our labor to their machine. Only this time, we're just going to be useless eaters.
Charlie, do you want to get in on this? I missed your voice. I haven't heard you in a while.
I've just been enjoying listening to everything. Well, I went on Whitney Webb's show a couple weeks ago, and we had a long talk about the simulations that were scheduled or that are being simulated right now for the elections. And she talked about some very specific things. So, you know, how we can go back and look at 9/11 and the drills being run before that and the simulations, Dark Winter and all that stuff. But we're always doing that in hindsight. We're going back. But in this particular case, we know of some simulations that are being role played right now. So we'll just talk about them in advance. And if any of these three very specific things happen, then everybody that calls us conspiracy theorists can fuck right off, because it's no longer theory. We're talking about things that actually wind up happening. So the things that she said were an AI attack on the power grid on election day, an AI attack on the water treatment, sewage treatment facilities around the United States, and also a hijacking of electric cars and driving them into lines of people waiting to vote. Oh. Those are three very specific scenarios that are being role played by some very dangerous companies out of Israel. And they're not doing this in a vacuum. There's something, we know how these things work. We know that simulations and role-playing events allow for the pre-positioning of assets, people, items, whatever, agendas. So these things happen in advance. So, you know, I'm not saying with 100% certainty that what Whitney was talking about is actually going to happen. It may not. Hopefully none of those things happen. But if any of them do, and we have this conversation again, you know, as we do twice a month, we'll have to discuss why it is, you know, are we Nostradamus here? Are we the Great Karnak? I mean, what are we doing? Are we just guessing, or is there sort of a pattern forming here? So we'll see how it goes after the election. I'm obviously a little concerned. And actually, Zach, while you're here, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what Eric Schmidt is actually doing at the Pentagon? Do we know with any certainty what that guy's up to?
So it's like, why is this guy like in the Pentagon? And here's the thing is that Eric Schmidt is a controlled asset. Okay, he's not an autonomous person. He was selected to be the CEO of Google by, you know, a group of influencers. And one of those people is Henry Kissinger. So when you think, like, why is Eric Schmidt at the Pentagon? A better question is, why is Henry Kissinger at the Pentagon? Through his agent. And it's because that, well, he's a power player. And you know, they've got their people in there and it's a negotiation.
Right.
Interesting.
I got to bounce, guys, but that was fire right there. I did not know anything about Henry Kissinger and whatever. I want to thank Zach. Zach, I know you hit me up on Twitter. You got to do my program. Ricky, thank you again for putting these together, man. I hope to see you guys 2 weeks from now from Iowa. God bless.
Yay.
Love you.
Good luck. Good luck. You're
Thanks,
a hero.
guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Later.
And Charlie, don't forget the asteroid that's supposed to come close to hitting the U.S.
November
Yeah.
2nd.
Yeah.